We are the light of the world. So I'd like you to turn to your neighbor and say, Spirit's got your back. Okay, now turn back to your neighbor and say, and Spirit's got my back too. So the message I have for you this morning is going to really ask, do you really believe that? Do you really believe that? Because it's so easy for us to say that, right? And I include myself in the bunch. I include myself in knowing just the right things to say. I know how to position things in a really positive light. But there are some times when we are tested, when we are absolutely going, I don't know what's going on. Am I the only one that has ever happened to? A few of you? Can I get a few more hands? Okay. These are the moments we're talking about this morning. Because it's really easy to know these principles when things are going well, right? When we really, really know. Because there's a difference between believing and knowing. And believing means I believe these principles. I can spout them all day long. I can even spout them to others because I see what they should do in their life. It's much harder. Oh, that hit a nerve. It's much harder for us to know these principles. And what I mean by that is we're actually using them and integrating them into our daily lives so that we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that these principles work for me and they work for everyone. I love how our service today has been so perfectly imperfect. Isn't that our lives? Because we try very hard every Sunday to present a very seamless production here. There's a lot of moving parts, would you agree? There's so much going on. And so today, isn't it wonderful that we get to be living examples of the imperfect perfection that is always happening in our lives? That's what I'm talking about. That even when things are not going perfectly, I hate air quotes, but I'll use those today. When they're going imperfectly, where they're not really the intentions and the plans that we set, we can trust and know that Spirit's got our back and that we are absolutely in the perfect unfoldment of our lives. That is our walk of faith. That is developing trust so deeply that we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, even in the midst of chaos and a hurricane swirling around us, that we're going, what the heck is going on? That we can know that God is in this. So I want to start with a story that comes from Matthew 14 to be exact. And whether or not we believe that these stories actually happened or not, we know, and Reverend Barbara's about to teach a wonderful metaphysical Bible class, and if you've never had the opportunity to really understand that the Bible really is the story of man, it's the story of man, and metaphorically, metaphysically, it fits everything that is going on in our lives today. It's really relevant when we look at it from the metaphysical viewpoint. So the story I want to focus on this morning comes from Matthew 14, where Jesus had just spoken to a multitude of people. He was getting crowds and bigger and bigger and bigger. And he said to his disciples, go off in the boat. I'm going to go up to the mountain to pray for a while. So they got on the boat, all 12 of them got into the boat. And Jesus was up on the mountain praying for quite a long time. During this time, a storm starts coming up. The wind is whipping and the waves are getting bigger and bigger, and here they are out on this boat, and it's seriously storming. So they're going, where's Jesus? Where's Jesus? He said he was going to be praying, then come back on the boat. And all of a sudden, they see off in the distance, because they're quite a ways out on the water, they see this apparition-looking thing coming across the water. And the disciples start a discussion among themselves. Is that a man? What is that? And at some point, someone said, it's a ghost. It's a ghost. It is an apparition. There's no way that could be a man walking on the water. And as the apparition, the ghost, got closer to the boat, one of the disciples said, that's Jesus, and he's walking on the water. And the wind is whipping. The waves are up around Jesus' feet, and he's still walking calmly, serenely. So Peter calls out, and he says, Jesus, if that's really you, command me to come out there. And so Jesus says, come. He puts his arm out, says, come. And so Peter steps off the boat. Again, waves, wind. It's not just a casual day in the park. And Peter steps off the boat onto the waves, and miraculously, he's walking across the water too, towards Jesus. And then he takes his eyes off of Jesus. And he looks and he's like, holy expletive. What am I doing here? And he starts sinking into the water. And he starts saying, save me, save me. And Jesus holds out his arm, pulls him up and says, O ye of little faith, you are doing so well. So in hindsight, I've heard people say, wow, Peter didn't have a whole lot of faith. He could have just kept going. He was walking on the water. He had the faith, and then the faith diminished. At some point, he let it go. But what I really want to focus on today is that Peter had the courage to get off the boat. Jesus said, come, and was waiting there with open arms. And Peter said, okay, I'm going to do this. It doesn't look like I can do it, but I'm going to try it. Where were the 11 other disciples safely in the boat? They weren't going to try. They weren't going to even put their toe in the water. And so the message from that I take, do I have the courage to at least get off the boat? I might not do it perfectly. I might not be in the midst of the waves part and the Red Sea parts. And did you see that on the Ten Commandments? I love watching that movie every year. Woo! And Moses, holds his rod out. There are moments in our life that are like that, where we hold our rod out and say, I'm going to go for this. I'm stepping into my faith. I'm walking by trust and knowing that somehow Spirit is supporting me through this process. Even when the waves are whipping around me and the wind is blowing like a hurricane, I'm trusting. And so I love this phrase. There we go. If you want to walk on water, you've got to get off the boat. And all of us, if you are sitting in this room, if you're hearing my voice, if you're watching this video, I know there is something within you that wants to walk on water. And what I mean by that is you want to have a bigger expression of who you are now. Am I right? Yes. A few of you think so. Am I right? Yes. And that's where we have to have the courage to step off the boat, because we can't walk on the water without taking that first step. And without trusting and knowing that we are meant for something so much greater than we can even imagine sometimes. Some of my best experiences in life were detours that I had no clue were coming. Can I get an amen to that? The detours in life are the juicy stuff, right? We set these intentions and all of a sudden something, bam, comes up. I am in the midst of a growing edge right now. I don't think I'm the only one in this room. That if we're really doing our work, we absolutely know that we are here to do something greater than what our consciousness is currently holding the space for. And that means growing our consciousness, doing our inner work, clearing up our shadows, doing that and integrating these principles into our daily experience. I told you last summer, when the first time I spoke here, last June, I had just been laid off. I had been working for this company for 2.5 years. It was bought by another company, a competitor, and they assured us, all your jobs are safe. Your salaries are fine. Don't worry about it. 2 weeks later, I get the phone call, Sally, we won't be taking you into the new company. We already have a director of marketing. So sorry. Okay. That was a little jolt. That's where I got to really walk by faith. And I have to tell you, if I stood up here and said I thought everything's going to be fine, I'd be lying. Because we all have those momentary doubts, don't we? We all have those moments where the fear comes up in our throat and we're going, what the heck am I going to do now? And so I worked through the process of trusting and knowing, and things just unfolded. Miracles started coming my way. And to make a long story short, I have been supported from that day without having a job. Now, that's a miraculous thing in my own mind right there. That, because I thought, well, I'll just go get another job. And guess what happened? They weren't coming. And before, I had been able to manifest jobs so easily, so quickly, with the experience and the work that I had done. But it wasn't happening. And here's the truth. I think many of you are experiencing this, that what we have done all our lives is no longer working. Does that resonate? That what we have done all of our lives that has worked so well for us in the past is no longer working. And that's Spirit calling us to a greater expression, because we know we co-create everything that happens to us. And so I know I drew that experience into my life so that I could up-level my experience of conscious living. Maybe you're being called to do that as well. It's not comfortable. It's downright scary sometimes. And yet, we know that we have the capability within us to overcome anything so that we truly are walking on water. We get to create our own miracles in our own lives. If we truly trust that we are here to do something so great, so magnificent, that our every ounce of energy that we have, nothing has ever been wasted. So I actually bless all of those wonderful experiences, like being laid off. That was a blessing when I really look at how it up-leveled me to a whole new way of being. And so today, I manifested a part-time job here at the center. Yay! Yay! Moved to Asheville. Yay! Been here 4 months now. And yeah. Oh, Fia, I love you. And I started looking for work here as well. Nothing was coming through. I'm like, come on, Spirit. I moved. Where's the support? Here's what's happened. People kept coming to me and saying, would you help me with my marketing? Would you help me develop something around the business that I have? And because my background is sales and marketing, I was like, sure. And all of a sudden, a little business was birthed that I wasn't looking for, that I didn't seek out, and clients started coming to me. And that is the supplementing of what I make here. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? And I was speaking with my good friend David Washington about that last week. And we were talking about there's times when you get in these spaces where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And he said something that was so profound, I wrote it down. I said, can I use that? And he said, yes. And he said, the solution is never where I'm looking. The solution is never where I'm looking. Because here I was looking for a job, looking for a job, looking for a job. That's the old way. What I know now is that I get to look for support, look for prosperity, look for abundance. Do you see the difference? And so you and I are on this cutting edge, getting to do this again and again and again when these opportunities show up. Opportunities are always showing up if we really look for them. This is, there we go. This is my friend, Dr. David Alt. He is a wonderful minister who lives in Atlanta. And on his 50th birthday several years ago, he decided to gift himself by walking on the Camino de Santiago, which is a pilgrimage that many, many thousands and hundreds and millions of people have done this for literally the last 1,000 years. They've been doing it since 800 AD. They've been making this pilgrimage every year, and they walk mostly in silence, in contemplation, and this is their rededication to themselves and to their spirituality. So Dr. David set off. It took him 34 days to walk the Camino, and he had profound experiences on this. And when he came back, he was telling me how the thing that really struck him, one of the things that struck him the most, was that there was a group that kind of, he fell in with every day because the other people that were going, dozens of other people that were walking the Camino, they were getting to know each other. And he said he found that people would start their morning and then they would hurry as fast as they could, walking this, many, many miles to get to the next town so that they got the best beds in the hostels where they were staying, because they were afraid that maybe they weren't going to get a bed. So they'd walk. Oh, I got to get there. And David, in the meantime, was just ambling along in contemplation, thinking about himself and his spiritual being. And he said, I wondered how many times in life I have done that myself, where I've hurried through life, checked off the boxes, okay, got to the next town, got a bed, got to the next town, got a bed, got to the next town, got a bed. And don't we treat life like that? That all we're doing is hurrying along and missing the golden opportunity to be in nature and the silence and with ourselves. It's so easy to distract ourselves, isn't it? We're pretty good at that. We come up with all kinds of things to distract ourselves. And in that moment, we are losing an opportunity to go deeper into the trust, to go deeper into the knowingness, to go deeper into the self-awareness of who we are on our own pilgrimage, because our lives are our own pilgrimage. I'm a pilgrim, so are you. And we have signposts along the way. We have people that we travel with for a while and then they fall away, and then we got other people that join us. It's a wonderful opportunity to stay present, not thinking about the next town and the next bed. Are we staying fully present, or are we missing these opportunities? One of my favorite movies came out 30 years ago, Indiana Jones and the Lost Crusade. So in this movie, this is the one where Sean Connery plays his father. And so they're looking for the Holy Grail. Indy's father has been shot. And so Indy has to go find the Holy Grail and save his father. So he's going through this underground tunnel, and he's trying to find his way. He's got to get to the Holy Grail. And he comes up to a ledge, a literal ledge. And he almost falls in. He's like, oh my goodness. There's this giant chasm that's half a mile across, it looks like. And he sees the opening on the other side. But he's like, how do I get there? What can I do? So he pulls his father's journal out. And in his father's journal, there's instructions. And what he says when he's reading this, the father has written, only in the leap from the lion's head will he prove his worth. Only in the leap from the lion's head will he prove his worth. And Indy's like, what does that mean? And he goes, oh, I get it. It's a leap of faith. It's a leap of faith. And he's like, there's no way I can leap from here to there. There's just no way. And then he goes, okay, I'm just going to trust. He can hear his father yelling because he's been shot in the background. He's like, I got to get over to the other side. Okay, I'm going to take a leap of faith. He puts his foot out. And he takes that very first step. And all of a sudden, he sees a bridge underneath him. It has been invisible to him. It's been there all the time, but it was invisible to him. And he sees this bridge, and it goes all the way across to the other side. So he makes his way across. Now, if you notice, there are no hand railings there. It's still a little scary. He's still got a mile down to go if he falls. But he walks across. He's fully supported, and the bridge was always there. And that's the way I have felt in the last almost year now, that I didn't see a bridge. And I was looking to make my own bridge, because you got to make it happen. That's, get out there, make it happen. And what I realized was, instead of making something happen, I needed to make something welcome. And that welcome was the support. The bridge was already there. Spirit had my back completely. I just had to receive. I just had to be open to it. I had to welcome it and say, thank you, Spirit. I'm ready to walk across that bridge. Now, it's still a little scary, and yet I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be all right, because Spirit has got my back. Many of us have made that journey across this bridge. Many of us are going through it right now. We're still experiencing that, because there is a quickening that is happening in the universe. And those of us who are light bearers, those of us who have agreed to be light bearers, that we are going to hold the light for everyone else to see, which is everybody in this room, everybody watching, you have an agreement with the universe that you will bring the very best of yourself into every situation that you come into, that you will bring in the highest love, wisdom, capability, compassion, kindness. And those of us who have agreed to that, there is a quickening going on, that whatever we used to do is not working any longer. And we have to rise up to that and say, okay, I trust that I will have the wisdom to know the next step, that I will be directed and guided, and I will listen to that guidance, and I will move forward. That's our walk of faith. And I want you to understand there's a very subtle difference between transformation and change. I've used those terms interchangeably for many, many years. But it just came into my experience recently that there is a subtle difference. Change means I can change my mind, I can change my way of being, but I can always go back to the old. That's what I was thinking. Well, I can go back to finding a job somewhere, support myself. I can do that. Transformation means there is something that has changed within me that I can never go back to the old way. See the difference? Barbara was talking last week about the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. The butterfly does not have a choice to go back being a caterpillar. They're changed forever. And you and I are being changed forever right now. We're being called to something greater if we choose to accept it, or we can keep, I've done this so many times, banging my head, why isn't this working? Come on, it's worked before. And I get to let go of that. I get to surrender. That the bridge is underneath me, even if I cannot see it right now. It's there if I simply let go and trust. Because I want to be transformed. I don't want to be just changed. I want to be transformed where I never go back to that old. Is there anyone with me on that? Yes. That we are transformed from the very cellular level of our beings. And that we don't ever accept what was acceptable before. That we lift ourselves to a place of consciousness that says, yes, I am here to be a being of light that is so brilliant. Nothing can ever dim that. You and I have such a gift in our hands to be a gift to this world, if we choose it. I'm going to close with a story. You may have heard this before. It's a story about that actually is used in the African tradition. And the elders of tribes will use this story to teach the younger ones. On the savannas of Africa, herds of teeming animals just come, wildebeest and antelope and impala, and they come and they feed on the grasses, and just off in the tall grass, there's some lions waiting for them. And the lions have gotten very, very smart. And what they do is they decide, okay, older lions, you go over here. So the older lions separate themselves from the rest of the pride, and they go over into the tall grass. Older lions who are not as fast, they have probably lost some teeth or 2 or 3 or 4, but their roar is pretty powerful. Their roar is bigger than their bite. So they go and sit in the tall grass completely opposite of the rest of the pride, the younger lions. And in the pathway here is where the herds of other beasts come to feed. So when the next herd comes in, the older lions roar, roar, and all of the beasts immediately, they freeze. Oh my God, there's something wrong. We've got to get out of here. They heard the roar over here, so they turn to go over here, where the dinner bell is ringing. And the younger lions are waiting for dinner. And so the African elders tell their young mentees, go run to the roar. Run to the roar, because that is the absolute safest place. And when we have the courage to run to the roar, that's indeed where our safety lies. We think if we run away from the roar, we're going to save ourselves. And what our spiritual truth is telling us, we got to run to the roar. We got to take care of business, face our fears, and know that we are absolutely imbued with the capability to solve any situation, to have the capability to be the victor in anything that comes our way. Run to the roar. Isn't that a fabulous story? So you and I get to run to the direction that says, oh, my other people are like, oh, I'm not going there. I have a whole family that goes, how do you do the things you do? I would never go there. You have people in your life too that don't understand why you have the courage to do that thing. I'm calling you into a higher expression today, that you have what it takes. Run to the roar. Get off the boat. Have the courage to be the being you came here to be. Are you with me? Yes. Namaste.